Hi, my name is Kim, and I belong to the Davidson Avenue Community Garden in the Bronx.
Hi, my name is Marisa, and I'm here with Earth Matter. That's what we're filming today. It's part of the Compost Learning Center on Governor's Island.
Hi, I'm Natalia, and I'm a community composter at Kew Gardens in Flatbush, Brooklyn. Today we're going to talk to you about scaling up your community compost operation. This is something a lot of community composters have been facing because of the COVID-19 pandemic. First of all, scaling up can mean different things depending on your community garden setup and purpose. If you are focused mainly on in-garden composting, scaling up will be about maximizing your recycling of garden and garden-only materials. How do you make use of everything you have on hand in the garden and keep that loop going? If you're doing or want to do food scrap drop-off for your community, scaling up will be about finding ways to manage the volume of materials coming in, usually food scraps, and finding everything you need for this increase in processing. In either case, your ticket to processing greater amounts of inputs more quickly will be thermophilic or hot composting.
Just to clarify, thermophilic or hot composting means creating and managing the conditions for decomposition so your pile goes through a cycle from starting out where it's cool, 68 degrees up until 113 degrees to hot, over 113 degrees up to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. And then after a period of time, it cools down again. Getting those high temperatures for a sustained duration of time can kill most weed seeds and most pathogens that might be in those food scraps and those inputs, and it will speed up the decomposition process. With thermophilic composting, you can have finished compost in about 9 months to a year. So let's say you're part of a community garden and really all you're doing is yard waste, and you only have a rudimentary composting system such as the Earth Machine. The Earth Machine is deceivingly complex. Thermophilic composting means that you're going to have temperatures that are over 113 degrees. In this Earth Machine, it's less likely that you'll be able to do that. In this Earth Machine, you can only take a very small volume, and you have to make sure you don't blend all your materials up. One way to get over that is to have 3 machines where all of your bin number 1 material, your fresh material, go in here, and then your other garden material that's more broken down goes in here, and then you have a 3rd machine which could be on the material that you want to use for your garden.
Or maybe you have a tumbler and it's 2/3 full. This tumbler is designed to be no more than 2/3 full. If you put too much in it, it just gets too heavy to manually tumble. And if you can't tumble on a regular basis or need another person who may not be available, the materials just don't get mixed properly and don't break down. So this bin is designed to add to it slowly, like the Earth Machine. If you have too much coming in and things aren't breaking down properly, you'll need multiple tumblers, or you can go into a 3-bin system.
You may have a 3-bin system and it's full. A 3-bin system gives you extra space for your compost at different stages. Now, when you have more inputs than what the 3-bin system could host, then you have an overflow situation. What do you do for that? Start at your bin 3, look at it, because right now there's no heat, so it's at the mesophilic, and you see there's no recognizable food stock. So your curing bin can be just hardware, fabric, cloth, and you don't need anything under the bottom or on the top, because this will not attract rodents. Once you move that out, you create a trickle-down system. You could put this to bin 2 into bin 3. Then you could put bin 1 into bin 2, and you start all over with your inputs. This will give you space and time.
Another tool that is really essential is the data collection tools. We want to make sure that our temperatures are above 131. And so taking these temperature readings will help us gauge to make sure that the materials are working and active. And if they're too hot or too low, then that's going to be indicators for actions that are needed in the first 15 days. If the material is in bin number 2, it's okay also to be over 131. But if you can imagine coming closer here, you can see that this working material is putting off steam. And so we know this, because of this, that stuff inside of here is in the first stage of decomposition. A lot of bacterial action is happening. Over here, we want to make sure that this bin material, that's 2, is also actively working. It's going to determine whether we want to move it to bin number 3 or not. If this temperature here is 115 degrees, that means it's already gone through its thermophilic stage and it's on its way back. But if I put my thermometer in here, I should have an ambient temperature. And here it's dropping down to about 90, 80. So it's still working, but you can tell that way. Not only that, you can tell by looking at the material which one is more decomposed.
If you're maximizing everything in your garden, you need to expand your notion of greens. You can use weeds, not just crop trimmings. The thing with weeds is that you do have seed heads. Sometimes you can cut them off, sometimes you can't. The high thermophilic temperatures will kill some of them, but it's not for sure. Maybe you don't mind, maybe you do. So it's either into the bin or into landfill. Then food scraps. You really aren't going to have a problem getting food scraps if you're doing a community drop-off and you're scaling up right now. But it is a good opportunity to educate people more about the food scraps to bring and how to bring them, how to chop at home, how to take contaminants out. You always will find some contaminants. You want to take them out. For the food scraps, you want to make sure that people understand that you can take no meat, chicken, beef. Sometimes it's good to make the distinction of fish, dairy, greasy food. And that's not because it doesn't get processed and thermophilic, but because it attracts rodents. And you're not sure in your system that it will get rid of the high temperatures, will be consistent enough to get rid of all the pathogens in your final product. And then finally, the other thing that you can do for greens, since you are scaling up, you can always reach out to local businesses like a corner coffee shop or a streetcar juicer and get their grounds, their food waste.
We talked about the greens, so now we're talking about the browns. Sometimes people bring their food scraps in what appears to be plastic bags, and they're actually compostable. It is up to you whether you want to add that to your compost. They also make it in plastic forks and containers. You'll see it written on there. You could use any kind of cardboard, and you have to tear it up before you put it in. If you find it difficult, wet it, and it'll be easier to do. You could also use newspaper. That should be shredded and torn. You could also use leaves, twigs, sticks, sawdust, and wood chips. What we're trying to do is you have a complete mixture of different browns.
We have everything we need. We have our greens, we have our brown. And now what we really need to do is make sure that there's space in the garden to scale up. Optimally, you'll have a non-porous area for you to be able to well blend this volume of materials before you put it into the bin. If you don't have that and all you have is bare soil, it'll be hard for you to do that turning. You want to make sure not only do you have enough room so that you can safely use tools, but that the materials are not going to permeate your garden soil. So if you don't have that, you could use a piece of plywood that could be a temporary tool that gets moved, or you could put it in a wheelbarrow or a big mixing trough.
To get everything done in time, you need your team. So we're going to be finishing this up, putting it in the bin. Remember that the microbes don't do it alone, and you don't have to either.